Let's have a Bible study on the Gospel according to Matthew. Now, the Gospel according to Matthew is traditionally believed to have been first penned, that's written down, after 70 AD, after the temple was destroyed. However, the destruction of the temple is not portrayed in such a way as to reflect a recent great catastrophe for the Jews. From an online article, quote, in the late 19th century, Charles B. Heuliet, an Egyptologist, got his hands on 3 small fragments of papyrus that were dug up in Upper Egypt and gave them to his former college, Magdalen College, Oxford, in 1901. These 3 segments contain the Greek text of Matthew's Gospel, chapter 26, verse 23 and 31. They are a total of 24 lines, text on both sides. This implies that they were part of a codex, a book with pages, rather than a traditional scroll, which was written on the smooth side only. These were beginning to make their appearance during the Gospel period. In his final letter, Paul requested Timothy to bring his books to him. See 2 Timothy 4:13, his books to him. In 1953, Colin H. Roberts, a notable British papyrologist, declared that these papyrus fragments were probably from the late 2nd century AD. It would be 40 years later that advanced technology would reveal that these small fragments are apparently the oldest New Testament manuscripts in existence, contemporaneous with the apostles themselves and other eyewitnesses. In 1994, Dr. Carsten Peter Thiede, director of the Institute of Basic Epistemological Research in Paderborn, Germany, used a scanning laser microscope to more carefully examine these fragments. T. Magdalen Greek 17/P64, as they are formally designated. Now, a scanning laser microscope can now differentiate between the 20 micrometer, that's a millionth of a meter, layers of papyrus, measuring the height and depth of the ink, and can even determine the angle of the stylus used by the scribe. Dr. Thiede compared the fragments with 4 other known references: a manuscript from Qumran, dated to 58 AD, one from Herculaneum, dated prior to 79 AD, one from Masada, dated from 73 to 74 AD, and one from the Egyptian town of Oxyrhynchus, dated 65 to 66 AD. He astounded the scholastic world by concluding that the Magdalen fragments were either an original from Matthew's Gospel or an immediate copy written while Matthew and the other disciples and other eyewitnesses were still alive. Matthew's skills in shorthand, an essential requirement for a customs official in a society devoid of printing, copiers, and the like, are evident in his inclusion of the extensive discourses which he apparently was able to record verbatim, unquote. Now this makes, if correct, Matthew as the oldest written manuscript of the Bible, although that conclusion is only based on the idea of it being the oldest simply because we have a copy of it that is the oldest, which makes no sense. We cannot know if there were earlier Gospels written down, such as Luke, because we don't have the originals. Think about it. The oldest copy we have of the Iliad, an epic Greek poem, is from around 900 AD. But we know it wasn't first put to paper then because it's referred to before that back to antiquity. Alexander the Great even slept with a copy under his pillow, I've read. I would refer you to read Thiede's book, Eyewitness to Jesus, Amazing New Manuscript Evidence About the Origin of the Gospels. So to say something is a certain date because the oldest copy we have of it is rather arrogant and short-sighted, when the likelihood is that it was written not long after events took place, perhaps in the late 30s or early 40s AD. We just don't have a copy that old. Matthew was first written in Hebrew and later translated into Greek, according to an old introduction to the Bishop's Bible reported by J.R. Doré. Now, J.R. Doré, Old Bibles, an account of the early versions of the English Bible, 1888. The New Testament was translated into Syriac and Latin almost as soon as it was first penned. Some copyists made copies in multiple languages at the same time. In other words, the New Testament was written in Latin and Syriac almost as early as it was written in Greek. H.C. Hoskier, Concerning the Genesis of the Versions of the New Testament, 1910. Now, Matthew is often called a distinctly Jewish book. Sometimes that is a legitimate appraisal, and other times it's an excuse to keep a Christian from viewing the importance and validity of Jesus' statements to our present-day world. You'll see what I mean soon. I also don't intend to compare Matthew to the other Gospels necessarily, or to make this a harmonization of the Gospels, so this review will be a little different from some you might be used to. Modernists insist that one Gospel copies from another, which to me is blasphemy. Only Luke purports to have read eyewitness accounts and talked to those living at the same time events happening. So only Luke, as an historian, can be said to have, quote, copied, if you want to use that word. Those same modernists will say that an Old Testament prophecy was written after events because they don't believe God could give a prophet a foretelling of the future. Matthew becomes an eyewitness in chapter 9. Mark supposedly wrote, according to tradition, based on Peter's teachings, and John was an eyewitness like Matthew. There's no reason to believe that Matthew's work was not original. And I'm going to pick it up now. We're going to start in the Gospel according to Matthew. I hope that you'll, if you watch this video, you'll click like and subscribe or follow and share the video with someone else. Save it to favorites, watch it again, repost it. Feel free to make comments. And open your Bible today and let God speak to you through His Word. Study your Bible, cross-referencing the verses. Before you do either one, pray to God for wisdom and understanding, and then share your interpretation with someone else. I look forward to what you have to say. If you disagree with me, that's fine, what I've said. Just put your citation so I can learn too from you. And if you have a prayer request, don't hesitate to put that in the comments. You can pray for yourself or someone else, and I'm sure I would love to pray for you, and other people watching the video would pray for you as well. Thank you.